Brilliance Audio presents A Bone to Pick by Melinda Leigh, performed by Christine Williams. Where did the screams come from, ma'am? Deputy Tessa Black stood under the porch overhang. The night wind whipped dead leaves around her boots. Over there! In the open doorway, Mrs. Driver lifted one hand from her walker and pointed behind Tessa. Tessa glanced over her shoulder. On the other side of a quarter-acre field, the thick forest of the state park abutted Mrs. Driver's property. Lights shining from the house couldn't penetrate the darkness. Everything beyond the tree line was inky black. Tessa cocked her head and listened intently, but all she heard was the wind rustling through branches. "What time did you hear them?" Tessa asked. 20 minutes ago. Mrs. Driver's eyes narrowed with reproach. I called you immediately. The "what took you so long" was implied. Tessa had been on call, not on duty, when the complaint had come in. She'd been on the road in less than 3 minutes, but navigating the tight switchbacks in the dark had taken time. Slow emergency response time was a part of life that every resident of Widow's Island well knew. But that fact never stopped anyone from complaining. An owl screeched, the high-pitched sound startling Tessa. She blew out a breath. Could you have heard an animal? Mrs. Driver lifted an indignant chin. Despite standing barely 5 feet tall, including her fluffy white curls, the old woman managed to look down her nose. I've lived on this island all my life. I know what I heard. It was no animal. It was a person screaming. She pursed her lips, concentrating. A man, I think. She nodded. Yes, I'm almost certain it was a man. Could she have heard teenagers? The State Park Beach, a popular hangout spot, was close by. Have you seen or heard anything else tonight? Tessa asked. Motorcycles or quads? No. With a shudder, Mrs. Driver lowered her hand and clutched the edges of her blue robe together. But I heard more than a single yell. The screaming went on for a full minute or two. It sounded so terrible. She paused, her lips puckering with wrinkles as she pressed them together. Blood-curdling. Goosebumps lifted on Tessa's arms. I'll check it out. Be sure to lock your door, ma'am. Yes, I will. Thank you, Mrs. Driver said solemnly. Then she shuffled her walker backward and closed the door. Tessa turned away from the house. As she stepped off the porch, she heard the deadbolt slide home with a metallic scrape. She walked to her county-issued SUV in the driveway. Across the street, a spotlight shone on the wooden arch that marked the entrance to Bishop State Park. Beyond it, the forest was murky and black. Tessa had no desire to traipse through it alone in the dark. 3 deputies lived on Widow's Island, including Tessa. Veteran Deputy Kurt Olson was off the island tonight. His daughter had had a baby earlier in the day at the mainland hospital. Bruce Taylor, a new hire from Oregon, was on duty, but he had been tied up with a vehicle accident when Mrs. Driver's call had come in. There would be no backup for Tessa from the sheriff's department. Other than the tiny satellite sheriff's station, the only other emergency service unit located on Widow's Island was a 2-bay fire station manned entirely by volunteers. There was no hospital, no urgent care, and no ambulance. The community had only recently replaced the doctor who had died ages ago. The sheriff's deputies served as first responders to any situation one of the 5,000 island residents considered urgent. Since Tessa had left the Seattle PD 18 months before and joined the local sheriff's department, she'd handled everything from loose sheep to drug overdoses to domestic violence.